Welcome, everyone. This is another interview that I am doing for my Remembering Who You Are program. And today I have my beautiful past client, Anabel, who is going to be sharing her experience today of her experience with Remembering Who You Are when she took this in about, I think it was March, April 2019. So Anabel is a mother of 6 living in the United States. She has a beautiful family, a partner, and I've known Anabel for a few years now. She's followed me in the different online spaces. And I think, Anabel, you wanted to work with me for quite some time, but then like the things never aligned, the stars never aligned. And I remember that before you came to Remembering Who You Are, you actually reached out to me about a different program. You actually reached out to me about a money manifesting program. And I remember tuning in and channeling, and my guide saying specifically, like, this is not for her highest good. She needs to be in Remembering Who You Are instead. And it's really interesting because I think we checked in like a month or so, whenever it was later. And I said, hey, I'm going to do this program now. Are you interested? And you're like, yeah, sign me up for that. And it's really interesting because I always do my best to serve to the best of my ability for the highest good of all. And I remember, in that moment, my manifesting program was 3 times more than Remembering Who You Are. But my guides were like, no, she doesn't need to be investing in this right now. She needs to wait for that one instead, because Remembering Who You Are was about personal development. It was about whole self healing. And the money manifesting was specifically to like money and self-worth and that kind of stuff. So what made you decide, after a couple of years of knowing each other and being interested in past programs, what made you decide to finally jump into Remembering Who You Are? If you can share that, if you remember, because it's been a minute.
Yeah. Right. It was watching all your other stuff and realizing how I felt from even just the free, daily readings, weekly readings, or, monthly that you would do. It really helped me to shift my mindset. Like I said, even in those simple, short videos. And so I was like, okay, I really need to dive in and do a full program for me. Not for, anybody else, but for myself. And I do remember when you told me that the money management wasn't the one, yeah. I was briefly, momentarily disappointed, like, oh man, I really want to work with Stef. But then when the other program came out, I was like, oh, I'm so glad that I waited. It was perfect.
See, all for the highest good.
Yes, absolutely.
And I really wanted to point that out as well, because people come to me quite often now, especially I usually get a few people every week asking me to work with me. And then if I tune in, my guides will either say this is for their highest good or that's for their highest good and so on. And, I really feel like it's important, especially for any coaches watching out there who are trying to serve to the best of their ability, their audience for their highest good. It's really important to make sure that we are giving the people that are coming to us for support what's actually going to help them to move forward. And sometimes what clients want, or prospective clients want, is not really what they need in that moment, right? And so maybe you in the moment, you were like, oh, money manifesting, want to get my money stuff together, I want to move forward in this way. But that's really maybe not what you needed in the moment. And, the universe, if you talk to guides or whatever, or if you can feel it intuitively, you can just be like, hold on, this is actually going to serve you more in the long run, because this is what's truly going to help you to bring harmony and balance into your life in the ways in which you need it at this time. So I'm really glad that you were willing to wait. I'm really glad that I was willing to listen to the guidance.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I knew you were legit. That was when I knew, Stef is in this with her heart, not for any other reason.
Oh, thank you. Yes. I especially know that because, and that's why I try to do things this way, especially because when I first invested in a business coach, she was awesome. She's gone off to be a millionaire and everything, and good for her. She has a system that works for her that helps people. But I really feel like at that time, maybe that program that she was offering should have had a bit of a kind of like a vetting system to see if the clients interested in that program were truly at a stage that they could actually benefit from that program and make the most of it. And looking back on it now, I realized I was definitely not at the level at which I needed to be to make the most of that program. And I had challenges afterwards with feeling all kinds of mixed feelings around that to kind of overcome that and heal from that. And let go of things around that. And I never wanted anyone to kind of feel like that with me and to have that kind of experience with me. And I really do my best, you know, especially right now with where I'm at in my business, to try to make sure people are in the right programs that they need to be to help them achieve what is truly for their highest good in this time. So thank you for trusting. Thank you to the God.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, because I don't have a specific structure for these interviews, I just kind of flow with it. But I wanted to know maybe like why did you decide to, when you learned more about remembering who you are and what it could help you with, why did you decide, okay, remembering who you are definitely is the program for me, because I'm having certain challenges in maybe areas of my life, and I feel like this is going to help me with it. So what made you decide to step into remembering who you are to support you with what areas of life maybe?
I had a lot of childhood trauma. I had a lot of events from maybe the age of 4 to like 17 that put me in a position to feel like a victim.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that I needed to do that inner child work. And remembering who you are took me back to my childhood and why I react the way I react, why I feel how I feel, what my certain triggers were. But it was something that I had never even fathomed doing before, is to sit there with myself and remember all of the pain that I had gone through and acknowledge it and accept it and release it. And so that was why remembering who you are was ideal for me, because I really did need to remember who I was at the core of my being before all of the trauma, before I put up walls.
That's crazy. And it's interesting because how would you describe, I don't know if you can put it into words, it's kind of tough because when you hear you have to remember who you are, sometimes you're like, what the crap does that mean? Like, what do you mean remember who I am? And it's really interesting because I feel sometimes it's even hard for me to explain like the power of this program. I need to find a really good copywriter. So if there's like a really amazing copywriter who's so aligned, and they're like, reach out to me. But sometimes I feel like it's difficult to put that into words until you actually take yourself through this process of this program and peel back the layers to really understand, oh, like I get what remembering who you are means now. Like I remember who I am now, you know? Like,
Exactly.
do you have anything you want to add to that, or is that okay?
Peeling back the layers is right. Because as we grow up, we almost create like a callus around these certain hurtful, memories or experiences, and we don't want to go too deep. We don't want to go under that callus. We just kind of want to leave it alone because it's already been healed over.
Yeah.
But peeling back those layers one by one, not all at once, not like a gaping wound, but just slowly and on your own pace, I guess. Yeah. In your own comfort, the comfort of whatever space you decide to do it in. It's very healing.
Yeah.
Like truly healing, not just Band-Aid over the gaping wound.
Yeah. What shifts do you remember seeing from taking yourself through this process, and how you behave and how you react and how you show up in life for your family? Like what positive shifts did you see because you took yourself through this healing process?
So major, my relationship with my dad is 1,000,000% better.
Yeah.
1,000,000%. Yeah. When I was 27, I'm 33 now when I took this. When I was 27, I was like done. I had decided that I was done crying over the past and, whether he was there or he wasn't there or whatever the hell. And I had closed that door, and I was like, I'm over it. I'm not going back through it. And then when I did the program, I realized how much of my hurt and pain was sitting with my father. And now, we have an amazing relationship, a relationship, that I did not expect I would ever have with him. Now, I wasn't ever disrespectful, and I'm still really close to his mom, my grandmother. So he was always around, but now it's like a genuine interest in how he is, you know, and what he's doing. That was unexpected, totally. A couple other shifts, me and my husband had like a really, really serious falling out after that.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was what it was, you know, that was what it needed to be.
Yeah.
Come to find out, it was a falling out to come back together, which was also very unexpected, but
You were more in your power.
right.
It was different.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So much more secure in myself and knowing what I want and that I can give it to myself. You know, I don't need a second person in my life to be able, you know, to feel whatever I want to feel, happiness, joy, you know, excitement. That was major for me because my very first relationship resulted in 3 kids, and I began that relationship when I was 15. So from 15 to 22, it was abuse and, you know, all forms of abuse, physical, emotional, some mental abuse. I've just always kind of been really strong-minded, but when you're in a relationship like that and you just want to keep the peace, it's so easy to just go with the flow and let people do whatever the hell they want with you.
Yeah.
And then that created resentment within myself because I wasn't standing up for myself and I wasn't protecting myself. So yeah, remembering who you are kind of took me through all these different levels of who I was at my core and who had affected and impacted who I had become. So it really allowed me to forgive myself first and foremost for feeling unempowered because I never was. I just allowed myself to feel that way. Money shifts also happened without me even trying. I mean, that was just kind of, I guess, a result of my state of mind. So much, Steph.
Well, also when you when you have especially blocks around love and relationships and things like that, that's very much quite often directly connected to your self-worth and to your ability to receive abundance. And especially with parental relationships, when we have major issues with our parents, we're to a certain extent not allowing ourselves to receive love. When we're not allowing ourselves to receive love, we have challenges with receiving money and receiving more love in relationships and things like that. So you choosing to heal your relationship, that father wound, and consequently that father wound benefiting your relationship with your spouse, it all ripples out, then shifted into the money. It's all interconnected. So that was all you know? Yay.
And remembering who I was at my core was like the catalyst. It was just a domino effect. And it's so crazy because I hadn't sat and thought about all of the change. That hadn't even come to mind until right now that we're talking about it. That was huge.
Yeah, I know. We were like chatting right before we started doing this interview, and I was thinking to myself while you were telling about your dad's stuff, because I remember how intense that was for you in the and I'm like, she didn't tell me this before we got on the interview.
So, yeah, no, I hadn't, like, it hadn't clicked.
Yeah.
I was enjoying it. It hadn't clicked.
Well, that's amazing. That's so powerful. And I can totally relate to that because taking myself through this own healing process for myself just radically helped me heal relationships with people in my family who are very important to me. But at the same time, I just really had a lot of challenges with as well. And when you are finally able to clear that up and you're able to cultivate that loving, harmonious relationship with them, or that relationship that's at least more balanced, like it just completely shifts, I think, your quality of life because you feel better with yourself because now you're good with them. And I think ultimately as human beings, like we do want to get along with our immediate family. And when we don't have that, even if we're not constantly thinking about it consciously, like subconsciously, we feel bad because we're not connected to them, and we aspire to have this connection with them always. So that's very powerful. Yay.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you, because we were talking about this a little bit before we got on the interview, but
Hmm.
you're a mother of six, and you know, that keeps you really busy, taking care of the kids and stuff. So how was it for you to make time to do this program with such a busy life? Like, how were you able to keep up with it? And you can just share, your experience.
It was an hour a day. I think maybe some were hour and a half.
Mhm.
And it really was after the first session how great I felt. I mentioned to you earlier that sitting with myself and acknowledging the hurt and the pain that I had been carrying around all this time, and then releasing it was like a huge breath of fresh air. So when I was done with my session, it was like a restart. It was like a refresh, and that was what made it worth it for me. So I didn't do the program exactly how I was supposed to. Obviously, I was, time constraints. But when I did sit down and do it, I felt so amazing that I was like, oh, I have to keep on. Like, I cannot stop. I have to finish, this out. It was worth the time investment, and I'm sure my children noticed, so it was like, can you give me an hour? Give me an hour and then I'll give you two. It's kind of bargaining, and they had to understand that mommy's a person too. She's not just mommy. And my kids have watched me deal with a lot, my health problems and mental health issues, and thankfully they support me when it comes to stuff like this. If I need hour and a half, they usually can give it to me. Or if I need to go for a drive, be like, can y'all just not kill each other? I'll be back in 30 minutes. So it's really about putting myself first and realizing I'm worth the effort. And if I can heal myself, I'm healing my whole family,
Yeah.
in essence.
Yeah, it's so important. When we were discussing before we started doing the interview, um, you were talking about, oh God, what were we saying? Dang it, my train of thought just left me, but we were talking
Sorry.
about, how just working on yourself and the shifts that you've made, how you didn't want to like repeat patterns. That was it. Thank you. You didn't want to
Yeah.
repeat patterns and pass those on to your children because, you know, these things, if we don't correct them in our lifetime, unintentionally pass them down to generation after generation. People that observe us, that come into contact with us, we pass that down. And so part of conscious parenting is being self-aware of your limiting beliefs, your fears, your traumas, your things, and moving yourself through them to let go of those things, let go of that energy, those patterns, and so on, so that your children don't have to repeat so much of that. And so I think you shared with me that was part of the reason also why you wanted to be in this program, and you realized that as you went through the program is like, oh, I got to also do this healing to break free from these patterns so that my children don't have to live this stuff again, right?
Yeah, definitely. I have 4 daughters.
Or
Don't want to watch them go through what my mom made me go through. Yeah.
oh God, yes,
And
yes.
the 2 boys, my 2 sons also, I never I never want them to think that it's okay to be in a relationship. I less than.
Yeah. And I can't really speak to other cultures because I don't know, but like as Latinas, like our Latino culture is very much always perpetuating that women, especially, I think this is common for a lot of women, but I also think it's more pronounced depending on the culture, but women are always giving and they're always there on your beck and call. And they're always just attending to the family, and they're always giving of themselves and they can never fill it back into their own cup. And I think from what we were talking about, and even in this interview, that's what you learn to start breaking free from, to start valuing yourself enough to take the time to do your healing work, put back into yourself. And that is setting an example for your children as well, to be like, oh, it's not bad, it's not selfish, it's not wrong for me to take time for myself, because they're learning that from you through your own behavior. So that's really awesome.
Right. Yeah. Keeping myself whole is what it amounted to, you know, and because, yeah, we do give and give and give and give and give and give. But the program really helped me to fill in those, I can only think of the word in Spanish.
You can say it in Spanish. I'll translate if I remember.
Los huecos,
The
you know,
whole.
rellenar los,
Fill the holes.
those, yeah, just, you know, fill them up, patch them up, and they made me whole again. And as a whole person, I was able to handle everything easier. My household, my relationship, you know, with my husband, with my parents, with my grandparents, everything. It just kind of all came together once I had focused on myself and given myself some time.
Yeah. Oh, I want to ask you about that real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Because I notice sometimes when people, like before they come to this program, whether they have children or not, if their houses are like a hot mess or disorganized or just like cluttered or whatever, after they go through this program and they do the healing work, like there's usually more tidiness, there's more organization, there's more flow. Like, have you noticed that for you?
Yes, definitely. And excuse me, still not at a scale that I would be 100% proud of, but it's gotten so much better because, yeah, there's 6 kids with clothes and toys and shoes. And so it was always a hot mess, you know, always. But yeah, in this last year, since me having taken the program, things have improved at least 60%.
That's awesome.
And I'm about to go through it again, and I am confident that it's gonna, you know, it's gonna improve another 60%. Yeah,
I love that.
that was definitely something I hadn't taken into account either. But yeah, that has changed.
Oh yeah, like it's really interesting because your external world is truly a reflection of your internal world. And
Yeah.
I never, like growing up, I was not the cleanest kid ever. I was a very messy kid. My mom would get so mad at me. But I knew underneath all my mess where my things were. And I was like, but I know
Right.
that. I know that, Mom. But yeah, like I've noticed after just doing all this healing work the last few years and so on, like just energetically, I for some reason cannot let my space get very messy for very long, if at all, because it just feels uncomfortable to me. And I've become so much more, me personally, minimalistic, tidier, organized, and I never thought this was possible. Like years ago, I was like, never gonna happen. But that's, you know, as you clear internally, like that just is how what's reflected externally, you know? So it's really awesome to see when moms especially go through that, or people who maybe consider themselves a bit of like a hoarder, to see that process unfold in their external world. Because especially for moms, they're just so under so much pressure and so many things, and having a messy house is just, I think, so stressful on you mentally and emotionally, because nobody wants their house to be a mess, I think, you know? And it's just like when your house is able to be cleared up or it's tidier because you've been doing this healing work, so you're seeing it reflected in the external world, like it just doesn't put as much stress on you mentally and emotionally anymore, and you feel better, you know? So yeah, it's just really awesome to see that, and I'm glad that you're experiencing that because I know the stress I put my mom through growing up. So
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And they're getting better too. You know, they adjust really well. So if there's new rules, you know, it's like, okay, well, mom said, now we got to do it this way.
it's really good. So let's see here. I want to ask you, I think, a couple more questions. What would you say was maybe the biggest takeaway from the program that you got?
How good it feels to, I was always scared of sitting there with my bad memories, but doing this program really made me face that fear head on, because a lot of it was sitting with myself and literally running through thousands of memories, flashbacks and experiences that impacted me in a negative way at the time. But it helped me to see how in the long run they were preparing me for maybe adulthood or later experiences that I was going to encounter later on in life, that I was better prepared for, or I knew how to handle, because of the trauma that I had already gone through as a kid. But that was my biggest takeaway, is it's
Sorry, you're kidding.
not a bad thing to, or doing it with the intention.
Sorry, you cut out for a minute.
You hear me now?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Because
as long as you're doing it with the intention to heal it and to release it and to move forward, it's beyond empowering. I mean, it's like literally like a miracle. You know, it's a miracle to take something that was so hurtful and neutralize it, completely neutralize it. And, you know, to the point where it's like, oh yeah, that happened. Yeah, I went through it, and not feel like a victim, not feel smited or resentful, or, you know, any of those things that come along with bad experiences, you know, when we're wronged by somebody else. I never, ever thought of myself as a person who could reflect on all of my trauma and be okay with it.
Yeah. That's so freeing and liberating.
Never. Yes.
And I'm really glad that you pointed that out, because so many people a lot of times are afraid of doing the deep shadow work, you know. And shadow work, if you're hearing this term for the first time, is basically you going deep within yourself and seeing the parts of you that you've repressed, you've neglected, you've pushed down, the parts that are ugly, the parts that are painful. And people oftentimes are afraid of this because they feel like that's reliving the trauma, that is causing more pain, that is manifesting more of it. There's that big misconception, and that's why people don't want to look at it. But that's actually the most empowering and freeing thing you could do for yourself, and what really truly allows for you to create more of the life that you want, by finally letting all of that heaviness go. And you are definitely going to feel uncomfortable a little bit, you know, but once you get through it, it's beautiful. It's amazing. It's maybe like giving birth. I don't know what this is like, but maybe that's what it's like.
I've done it 6 times and it's pretty close. Yeah. Because it's unbearable in the moment, but yeah, afterwards it's like, oh, wow, this feels great.
Yeah, exactly. So I think to finalize the interview, so I don't take too much of your time, is, so, oh yeah, one thing I wanted to address is, you know, and we discussed this before coming on to the interview to make sure you were okay with talking about this, but you have a family that has a single income home. You have 6 mouths to feed for the children, including you and your husband. So that's 8 people in your family, not to mention other extended family that might be with you that you're responsible for. And so that's a very big responsibility. But even then, you know, you still decided to invest in yourself. So I would really love to hear what maybe you have to say for any people who are of single income families or single parents themselves, who maybe feel like this program is in alignment for them. They feel pulled to it, but for some reason, maybe they're feeling like the financial aspect of investing in this program is what's holding them back from doing this. So what would you say to them?
I waited, probably I followed you for about 2 years before I made that financial commitment, but you give so much value in just your free programs and little challenges and stuff that you do, that I knew you were in alignment with me as a coach, as a, you know, mentor. So that was number one, important to me, because there's so many people who do what you do, but there was, right. There was a certain alignment that I couldn't explain when it came to you and your message. And then the other part of that was, I spend money on myself throughout the year anyway. And this was an investment in my emotional and my mental health, which is invaluable, because if you go crazy, they can't fix that sometimes. You know? So it was like, okay, if I can sacrifice, you know, in the future, 3 pairs of tennis shoes and, you know, a trip somewhere for myself or whatever, you know, a spa day or etc. There's just so much that you can pull from to invest in yourself, in your own health, because it that's another thing. I haven't had to take medication for my arthritis in quite a while, and my pain has not been as, you know, bad as it was. My husband just got home. But I knew that if I could heal those innermost parts of myself, that I would be rewarded, not necessarily financially, but as far as my life goes. So it was worth it to me to be like, you know what, I can do without any luxuries for the next 6 months. I need to focus on myself.
Yeah, I love that so much. I appreciate that because it's truly awesome. Like, I think people sometimes get too caught up in the immediate investment and they don't think about like the
Right.
long-term benefits. Like, yes, this might be an upfront investment now, but you're going to benefit from it year after year after year. And the value of healing, you know, relationships, for example, that have been totally like lost or just you gave up on, to have
Right.
them like heal completely and to have your health, you know, not get worse or save your marriage or all of these different things. Like that's just, it's priceless. Like you can't put a price
Priceless.
on that, you know? So
For sure.
I love that so much.
What I invested, I received tenfold at least.
Yeah, I love that so much. So are there any final words that you might say to anyone considering being a part of this program at this time that is listening to your interview now in the future, whenever? Is there anything you'd like to say to them?
I would definitely say to sit with yourself first and foremost and make sure that they're ready to do the work, because if you make the financial commitment but you don't make the spiritual commitment to sit with yourself and process and deal with the hurt, you know, and maybe it's not even pain, you know, maybe it's like you said, things that are repressed that you don't even think about, you don't even realize are down there, but they're still poisoning you, you know, from the inside. Make sure that you're ready to make that shift within yourself, because nobody can make it for you. Yeah. Right? You have to commit to the program. You have to commit to being completely and 100% honest with you, with yourself, not with you, with, you know, with yourself. And yeah, then the money is like secondary. Yeah. That doesn't, you know, that's secondary. But if you can make that promise to yourself that I am worth whatever pain is gonna, you know, come up or issues that are gonna come up that I'm gonna have to process and deal with, you're ready for the program.
Yes, I love that. And I'm so glad that you said that, because this is one of the reasons why I'm also very particular about who I work with, because I'm like, you have to be ready. And if you're not ready to do the work, then there really is no point in me taking your money and using you for this, because you're not going to see the results. And it's not that the program isn't good. It's just that you have to be willing to be honest with yourself and let it out, see the ugly, see the ugly parts about you and your way of being, you know? Yeah. And that is sometimes difficult because we don't like to see the nastiness sometimes that we hold inside of ourselves, you know, how we're not being the kindest, most loving people. We don't want to admit to that. But in order to really heal, like, you have to be honest and you have to be ready for that, to see your part in why maybe your life is out of alignment, you know, and to be able to heal through it. So you definitely have to be at a certain point to receive this program and to be a match. Yeah. So yeah. Yes. I love that so much. So thank you so much, Anabel, for your time. I really do appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Sitting here, even just, you know, kind of talking about it and remembering about the program, it's like all this stuff came up that I didn't even realize, you know, that's where it all started.
Yay! Well,
And I'm about to do it again. So I'll be in touch.
yay, I can't wait to hear all about it. So thank you so
Mhm.
much to anyone who watched this interview. I really hope that this has helped you. If you have any questions about remembering who you are, be sure to reach out to me on social media. The links to my social media things are in the description of this video. And I don't have a current website for this program yet. But if when I do have the website, it will be up here somewhere, or you'll find it somewhere online. You will find me. Just find me on social media and you'll find all my things. Otherwise, message me directly. So thank you so much, Annabelle, for your time, for being so gracious and sharing
You're
your
so
experience.
welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate you so much. I look forward to supporting you again sometime in the future when it's in alignment. And I'm super happy and excited for you and all the amazing things that you've been able to create in your life as a result of you showing up and doing your work. Because even though you feel like you didn't maybe do the work exactly as you know, maybe intended to, or maybe was asked of you, still what you did had such profound shifts in your life. And I'm really excited to see what other shifts come about as a result of you going through the process again. So I love it. I'm super excited.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, have a nice day, everyone. Take care. Bye, Annabelle.
Bye.